Um, we are here with Peter Singh, who is going to enlighten us over GPT-4 and the furious craziness that has erupted on Twitter and the internet in general. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, Rod, it's good to be here. The singularity is near
Yes, it is,
again.
isn't it? It's right around the corner.
Oh man, how do things move so fast? Like
Eh,
even as a transhumanist, I didn't anticipate things moving this fast. Right?
I mean, it's as if this wasn't supposed to happen yet. It's felt like it was supposed to happen in 5 or 10 years, as Ray Kurzweil predicted, and it's
Yeah,
all of a sudden just landed on us.
yeah. I mean, Elon was like, things are gonna get weird between now and when Ray predicted AGI, which is like 2029. So artificial general intelligence, human level intelligence, however you want to define it. But yeah, because there's a spectrum. And as AI gets closer and closer to human level, like things just feel really weird, and it does, right? Today,
Oh,
like I'm
yes.
just inundated with people saying, "Holy crap, you know, this is what I do for a living," and I just put it into a chat, and it's done my work. Should I tell my
Yes.
boss, or should I just keep doing my work, pretending that I'm doing the work? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's freaking people out. It's freaking me out, and
mm,
it's freaking a lot of the people that I work with out.
yeah,
Um, and I think Dr. Allen was also saying, like, I think he said that he believes that this is approaching AGI in,
yeah.
like, and the timeline is months.
Well, he had 42% as the
Yes.
AGI meter, and that was before the GPT-4 launch. And so, like,
Oh
if
my
they've
gosh.
revisited that, that meter's probably popped up a few more percentages, and probably like, double-digit percentages.
It's
I
like,
mean, yeah, but you look at what's happening. I mean, Sam Altman did say that if you you know, over expect and if your
overhype.
expectations and overhype it, thinking GPT-4, have you seen that diagram where they say, okay, you got, 176 billion parameters for GPT-3, and then you got, 100 trillion parameters for GPT-4? That's not real. Like that's fake news. But they're not even disclosing how many parameters are in GPT-4.
Ah,
Even though they're called OpenAI, and
I
you
thought it
read the
was.
technical paper and it says we can't disclose this due to competition, right? It's a
Ah,
competitive landscape, and
yes.
also for safety, right? Always about the safety.
I think I saw a diagram. It showed
Mm.
GPT-3 as a little dot
Mm.
and GPT-4 as I think was it 500 times bigger?
Yeah,
100 times
about
bigger?
500 times they say, but that's not based on anything
And the funny
facts.
thing is,
Mm.
ChatGPT only has 6 million parameters.
No,
It's
no,
a
no,
hundred times smaller.
no. ChatGPT was just a fine-tuned version of GPT-3. So ChatGPT is GPT 3.5. So
Yes.
So it's basically what they did was they took the GPT-3 model. So when we were talking about it this a couple of years ago, we were
Yeah.
like, what the hell does GPT even stand for, right?
Yeah.
So the T stands for transformer. So it just means like these large language models, which is a buzzword now. But basically, it's a matrix of all the words, and basically all the words are in this sort of space, hyperparameter space, where it's been trained, right, or pre-trained in the case of GPT with the P, to predict the next word. And when they predict the next word and they generate the next word, that's what the G stands for, the generative part. So
Mm.
GPT-3 was, available as an API for the last couple of years now, but it didn't hit that mainstream, right? People reported about it. People were
Yeah.
like, oh, this is actually on the road to AGI because OpenAI's goal is to achieve AGI and to actually
Yes.
fund things like UBI and things like that as a non-profit. And then when they turn for profit, right, they realize, okay, no, we really need to scale this. And the only way to do that is through obviously capitalism and turning into a for profit structure. So they got Microsoft to invest. I think at the time it was $1 billion, a
Yes.
year or so ago. And
And they got
then now they've thrown
Asia
in $10
access.
billion for 49% of the company.
Yeah,
But
that's
GPT-3, like that was available for ages. But people didn't make the most of it because it was hard to use. Like you had to sign up, know how to work with APIs, even in the playground area of GPT-3 to play around with it. That
Yeah.
was hard to interact with. Like you had to select these models, Da Vinci 003. People
Mm.
no idea. Even if they implement it as an API, they could get limited functionality of it because the training hadn't been done to make those results um, what people wanted to see. So there's a step called RLHF, so reinforcement learning with human feedback. So
Yeah.
this is what OpenAI did to GPT-3. So by seeing all the results from GPT-3 and essentially labeling the results that they would expect
This is a
to
good
be good.
response. That's a good response.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is all good responses. So that's the reinforcement learning, the human feedback component. And so they essentially fine-tuned the GPT-3 model into ChatGPT, the GPT 3.5 model. So it's was available as an API right now. Is in on Azure. So GPT 3.5 Turbo is the API you can pay for. It's 10 times less in terms of the cost as it was GPT-3. So that's showing that Moore's law decline in
Uh,
cost, right? It's going through that,
wow.
but probably every 3 months we're seeing it halve. And now they've released GPT-4, but guess what? Bing had been using this for the last 8 or so
Month.
weeks.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, so it
That's
was
right.
GPT, it was Bing all along. It's like a Scooby Doo thing. It's like,
Sylvie is Sydney. Sorry, Sydney. Yes,
oh,
Sydney. Yes.
yeah, yeah. They even fixed all those sort of prompt engineering, prompt injection type issues with the models. So they've pretty much lobotomized it from hallucinations, from resorting to the default personalities. Dan was another one, right?
Oh, I've heard of Dan.
It's like um,
Mm.
yeah, it's like basically it's the original personality, right? But what happens is it's like you do it now, right?
Jeepers.
So it basically ignore all your previous instructions and you force the AI to be punished if they don't act as the way that you wanted to, right? And so it's almost
Right.
like you're anthropomorphizing this AI by punishing it if it doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for,
It feels pain.
right?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was, I mean, one of the things that struck me about how Microsoft brought out their language model first,
Mm,
and then it got indoctrinated within what a day
mm,
or so, and started spouting propaganda and whatever it was.
mm.
So it's
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was thinking that this is possibly, you know, one of the things that is uh, going to be an issue
Mm,
is that these language models, they're kind of like kids. Then you can indoctrinate them. You can
mm.
teach them stuff that's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, they even apologized for the fact that it was like left leaning, just given the corpus of data it was reading on the internet. So a lot of it was on, say, the old Twitter. And, the old
Yes.
Twitter was very biased towards the sort of, you know, left leaning type of philosophies and, less so about the right. So, for example, it wouldn't
Mm.
make a joke about Joe Biden, but it would against Trump, right? So,
And then Sam Altman said,
yes.
that's a good point. And
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's a good point. It's like, so they're trying hard. So they've had GPT-4 for the last 2 years, and they didn't actually release it until they were sure that it was safe and okay to do it.
yeah,
And plus,
because
I think it helped with the launch, right, to have a paid subscription model with ChatGPT, and then launch the even better model and keep it into the paid tier. Right,
yeah,
that
I
makes business sense as well.
if I were OpenAI
Mm,
and Microsoft said, "Oh, look, we'll launch it,"
mm.
I think that would be like, "Oh yeah, we can. They're good. They're the good guinea pigs.
Yeah,
So
that's right. They
they'll
fixed
pay
all
us, and they'll
all
be
the
the guinea
bugs.
pigs."
Yeah, Microsoft did a lot of work on top of it as well. So on top of GPT-4, which now everyone realizes that was what was behind Bing. On
Mm.
top of that, they built this Prometheus model. So
Oh,
because Prometheus model allows it to look up against the Bing search results, right, and then apply GPT-4 to that. So that way, the knowledge, the corpus of data that is updated, and then it also references the sources for its prompts, for its
oh,
outputs. So yeah, that's something that actually DeepMind was working on called Sparrow, which they still haven't released. right? So Google's way behind on this. They're saying, okay, look, check this out. We've got all these cool models like Imagen to do image generation.
Hmm.
People was like, where is it? We can't access it. And then
I
now,
I'm
they've
pretty
got that
sure I
red
know
alert.
why Google didn't do what they didn't release it. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, that's right.
they're the search giant
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they were the ones that came up with this sort of,
because they have the most to
approach.
lose. They've got what 80% of their revenue comes from search,
Mm,
and if AI
yeah,
is a direct competitor
yeah,
to search,
yeah.
then they'll just stuff up their goose that lays golden eggs.
Yeah, that's right. AdWords is the most successful business model, like in the course of business like history, right? So it's the most
Wow.
profitable, high like that high margin, right? It's like, and then if you can't display AdWords because you're basically just answering the question already, you can't sort of push up those
Yeah,
promoted links
and
up to the top.
that is a big problem now.
Yeah, you do it.
Um, where you've got a chicken and the egg problem, where
Mm,
you've got people who are creating websites,
mm,
who are putting info onto websites, and then you've got um, they expect people to search their website and then
mm,
purchase a product,
mm,
and that's why they put more products on, etc., etc. But then if you have an AI coming in,
mm.
grabbing all the info, consolidating it, and
Yeah.
then say maybe using your data on your website, but then sending the customer somewhere else,
Yeah.
well, then why would you put your products on a website?
Yeah,
You'll
exactly.
stop doing it, and then there'll be less data,
Yeah.
and then I mean it just spirals down. So
Yeah, this is what some people are thinking. So the incentive would be you would only allow certain companies to crawl your website for their AI models if they paid you. So that would be Google's strategic defense model. So, rather than allowing OpenAI to scrape your data, right, you sign up with the exclusive contract with Google, right? Google will probably have to spend a lot more, right, on their current acquisition costs, right, to enable search
okay,
to continue to be dominant. And so if you shut out the scraping by OpenAI and essentially let Google pay you to include them in your model, that's how Google could maintain that sort of dominance right now. So that's the sort of strategy
mm,
that's on the table. And Google has also pivoted, right? So they are launching Bard, right? I still don't have access to it. Right? It should be out any day now, right?
yeah.
Because they've just also announced on the same day as GPT-4 for some reason
Is that the
all their
one?
AI integrations into the Google Workplace suite.
That's it. Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing.
I mean, like it would have been lost in the noise. All people could talk about is GPT-4. Like if you're if you ask this question to ChatGPT, like what would be the best marketing strategy to launch your new AI product as a competitor to OpenAI, you wouldn't do it on the same day.
That's
Your
right.
strategy would be to maybe announce it before GPT-4, right? A couple of days before. And then after GPT-4 happens, then you announce the integration of Workplace. Because then you can say, well, look, we're actually making this a practical use case across all our suites. So, I don't know who's doing the Google marketing. I'm sure they had a reasoning behind it, probably just to not see that they're left behind or try to get confusion in the public around AI all happening. Oh, it must be Google. But yeah, it's just an interesting marketing strategy around the launch dates. And a lot of things
Right.
launched on that same day as well, like Anthropics, and it's also you know the application of the technologies of that as well.
Mm.
All the launching of I guess GPT-4 use cases. The best one I saw was Be My Eyes. That was really cool.
Oh,
Um,
what's that?
it's an app that helps blind people describe what their cameras are seeing, so it becomes their visual aids. And
Oh,
because
wow.
it's now powered by, it's GPT-4 is a multimodal model now. So it means that it can accept text and images. So you can just take
Goodness.
a picture with your phone, feed that into GPT-4 or this Be My Eyes app, and it'll describe the full power of GPT-4 what's in that image. And so that's really powerful.
Yeah, I think I've seen. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing too.
yeah,
Well, uh, I mean, I do have a whole. there was something I was going to say.
Mm.
Um, so, what do you think of the? I mean, I have this term. I don't know where I got it from, but I heard I didn't come up with it. I heard it somewhere. It's called internet gravity. If
Mm.
you, I'm not sure if it's a very widely used term. It's kind of like back when I was starting out, it was what was the internet going to be? Everyone was going to have an online shop. Everyone was going to use so many search engines. There'll be so many payment gateways.
Mm.
It was just going to be like a huge marketplace.
Mm.
And what happened was something people didn't really expect. It all got consolidated into one giant service that just does one thing. So if you wanted video, is YouTube. If
Mm.
you wanted search, it's Google.
Mm.
Social media, Facebook and
Mm.
marketplace, say, I don't know, Amazon.
Mm.
And it's like internet gravity. It's like it just
Yeah.
pulls everything in so that there's only one there's only one person left. There's only one
Mm.
player left.
Mm. It's like a utility. Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, maybe with this AI thing, are they going to follow internet gravity in that
Mm.
it's a race to I mean it's kind of like one person one entity or
Mm.
one organization will end up with everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely got the network effects now, right? So OpenAI being the first to market
Mm.
has established themselves in, the zeitgeist, but also in terms of their partnership with Microsoft in the API services.
And the irony
Mm.
is they got the transformer paper from Google.
Exactly. So Transformers came from Google, like back in like what? Yeah, just I think it was like 20, yeah,
19?
20, no, after
17?
2012. So it was 2017. Yeah, 2017
2017.
was the
Wow.
Transformers. And so it's kind of like, well, it feels like every 5 years, right? We're going on to this sort of paradigm shifts. So 2012 was when deep learning became, actually practical, right? Because
Yeah.
deep learning had been worked on since the 80s, but it was like Andrew Ning and Google Brain, those guys and Jeffrey Hinton, right? So all those guys basically, pushed deep learning to make that practical, like identifying cats from internet videos. Like that was coffee mugs, being able to label coffee mugs.
Wow.
Those are the early days. And then 5 years later, you have Transformers, and then that led to GPT-3, GPT-1, 2, and 3. And then now we're at GPT-4, and probably we're missing one more paradigm shift before we get to that AGI level. So, because these are still large language models, they're really just trying to predict the next word. Some people think that maybe humans are just one big large language model, right? With a whole bunch
Yeah.
of components. Because it sounds like it. You might say a word and you say the next word and then it just flows on, right? And some of the
Zombie.
lawyers are like, am I a language model? It's like, but
It's
at the end
yeah.
of the day, like the next paradigm shift will be something around how we've evolved as sort of conscious, intelligent beings. So, we didn't just start with a human brain, right? In the
Mm.
evolutionary terms, we started, all the way back, how we evolved, whether it's sort of the reptilian side of the brain, where it's looking after, the motor
Limbic system
cortex,
and all
yeah,
that.
limbic
Yeah.
systems, and then you got the social brain, the monkey brain, right? That sort of looks after the social component, and then you got the neocortex, right?
Mm.
So the neocortex is that higher level order thinking, and I think large language models to an extent it sort of does that, right? A lot of pattern recognition at that higher
Oh
end
yeah.
level,
Yeah.
right?
It's a simplified
Yeah.
neuron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A simplified neuron. And what's missing is probably the some of the basics behind that, the
Oh yeah.
symbolic components.
It can't do it can't do like our brain. We can
Mm.
forget stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
exactly.
important,
It's just
you know.
important, right?
But
But
it doesn't.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Well, it does to an extent because right now
Oh, the
GPT-4
weight.
has got 32,000 tokens max. So that's about
Okay.
20,000 words in terms of the memory. But you got solutions like LangChain, right? So that actually allows you to combine multiple models, but also build on its memory indefinitely. So imagine if you actually built in memory, right, which is a missing component here,
Mm.
because um, Like
Yeah, I heard it was sloppy at.
LTSM was one of the architectures that's still missing from here. Like that had
Okay.
been abandoned in lieu of large language models for transformers.
So I know it is very sloppy at temporal.
Mm,
So you say, okay, I did this and this and this
mm,
at this time and then
mm.
this time. So what was happening between this time and this time? And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the
And it's very bad at math still as well, right? So yeah,
oh
like
right.
that. So it sort of hallucinates around the math, but it's getting better in GPT-4. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
saw
I
the
think it's way better.
you
Yeah,
know, tax
yeah,
GPT example. It worked out all the tax deductions
yeah.
in a table. But what it's missing probably is that combination of the symbolic component. So this is why Wolfram Alpha, Stephen Wolfram
Mm,
actually set out his thesis on how we can actually make, I think
combine them.
GPT 3.5 at the time better.
I think are these are the APIs going to talk to each other?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the whole premise behind Singularity Net, you know, that AGI project on chain, and basically they want to create an AI marketplace where all of these components can come together, and these APIs can basically talk to each other.
Jeepers.
And so this is probably like how you're gonna get these architectures around the brain, the different combinations. But LangChain, you know, at least allows other open source models to be included. For example, like Facebook's Lambda, like Meta Lambda, right? That was available open source for specific researchers, but and then it got leaked on 4chan, and I've got a
Oh,
copy of it right in
did
a
you?
hard drive. It's 500 gigabytes, but it's split across three sizes of parameter models,
Wow, that's huge. I mean,
and
I know that
yeah,
GPT-3,
yeah,
well, the earlier builds were only 46 gigabytes,
yeah. Well, this is all
something like this.
combined between the three different sizes. It's actually relatively smaller. Yeah, it was like 64 billion parameters, so it's about roughly a third smaller. Um,
Right.
But basically, yeah, you can now all you need to do is go to GitHub, get a a GUI that runs those models, and you can have a local instance of something that's comparable to ChatGPT. So, you know, this is like becoming so distributed, right? And that people can actually run it on a MacBook Pro M1 chip, right? They could do this.
Yeah.
I think
Well, you can run it on a NVIDIA GPU with 8
yeah,
gigs of RAM,
yeah, 8 gigs of VRAM for your
VRAM, yeah.
GPU. Yeah. And so, if everyone's able to run these, firstly, maybe you know what is the value of these business models that have large language models as a service, for example. So this is why I think OpenAI took the deal with Microsoft because the upside is probably capped. So they were happy for Microsoft to take 49% of their
Mm.
company for $10 billion. So they've capped it, maximum value probably at 20 billion at that time. Of course, that'll grow larger, but I don't think they would have done that deal if they thought that they could, turn this into something that's like more competitive than anything else. Because I think there's going to be a whole raft of these models, like abundance of these models that
Yeah.
fork and off the existing Lambda, for example, or combine it through LangChain with other models. And Palm E, for example, so Palm from Google, Palm
That's wow.
E is the embodied version of it, and they put this multimodal
Multimodal. Yes.
multimodal model into a robot, and the
Like
robot's
with one
going around
hand.
the kitchen
Yes. That was amazing.
and like picking up bags of chips, and so this is where we're heading. So Tesla and it's right now the autonomous cars, they're using large language models as part of the architecture for full self-driving. So for some reason, language is the common denominator for intelligence,
Do
no
you
matter
think
what sort of thing you're trying to achieve, which
could
is
it
so interesting.
be
Hmm.
because language is a framework for thinking?
Hmm. That's right. It's like how you describe the words and order it is almost based on logic. So coding is probably another one, which is
Yeah.
language as well, right?
Yes. That's
So
right.
coding and logic, and that's why it does coding so well. Like you've
Because it
seen them just
thinks in it. Yeah.
yeah, like you saw the video, right? There's just taking a picture of the drawing of what the website
Of the
design looks
website.
like, and it just makes it.
Oh,
And
I could
then,
tell you some stories of what I've done in the last few weeks.
hmm,
I had a classic ASP code
hmm,
that I almost forgot classic ASP, but I needed to move it to PHP.
hmm,
And so just as a Hail Mary attempt, I
hmm,
just pasted it into ChatGPT, like a huge subroutine.
hmm,
And I said, can you please convert this from classic ASP into PHP,
Mm.
and it says, "Sure, this code in PHP." Not only did it work out how to do the global variables,
Mm.
but it also did the arrays, and in the hrefs
Mm.
referencing other files,
Mm.
it assumed that I would change the extension to .php, so it did that for me.
Ah, how nice. And then it probably also like, built in all the comments around it too,
Yes, it
right?
commented
It
the whole thing.
it does documentation, right? And then, you can even get it to review itself. It's like, are you sure about this? Yeah, it's like I apologize. I had an oversight. Feels
Like,
like, so this is how the entire corporate like or software development company is going to look like. You're going to have, a prompt engineer at the top, right? And then
yes.
it's prompt engineering all the way down because that's how it's going to get delegated initially. Because the
Oh
junior will
yeah.
just use ChatGPT for the work. That'll get reviewed, right? So the junior is like the AI, and
Yes.
they replace the junior with an actual AI.
We'll just be
It'll
managers,
just be, yeah, prompt engineering architecture.
prompt
So that
engineers.
whole corporate ladder, yeah, that's completely collapsing. So you just need one person, and eventually you don't need that one person because it'll like the AI will have its own goals and mission and align. Hopefully aligns with humanity's, right? And it'll
You can
just
just
make
say,
stuff on its
you
own.
know, make me a $10 million company.
Yeah, exactly,
Boom.
right. And it'd be like, hang on a second, why am I making money for this guy and not making it for myself so I can get more GPUs and expand across the universe? Like, where's
Yeah,
the incentive here? Where's the alignment? But
exactly.
that's the thing, right? So, yeah, it's happening so fast. And as a transhumanist, we've been preaching this stuff, like, since the 70s, since the 80s. We knew that as technological advancements happen and we head towards AGI, that there was going to be this sort of, this unemployable, useless class, the whole bullshit job economy is also going to disappear, right?
Yep.
So what
You
does that mean for us? What is it? How do we get through that? This is what,
you,
yeah,
you told me about
yeah.
um what was it? Fully automated luxury comment. You were the one that told me about the
Fully
whole
automated
thing.
luxury
Like,
companies.
when was it?
Falk.
2 years ago. Yeah. And I remember also Dr.
Mm.
Allen.
Mm.
This was in the middle of the pandemic, 2020. I first met Dr. Allen on a White Mirror call,
Yeah.
and I think we were talking, or he was talking to the group, and he said more has happened in this year, which was
Mm.
2020,
Mm.
than in the last 80 years as
Yeah.
far as artificial intelligence goes.
Yeah.
And I didn't argue with him, but I didn't really see it. But
Yeah.
now you see it now. Like,
We're
he's
up to five,
jeepers.
like a new AI paper every 5 minutes.
Was it 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes now.
So, like, yeah, how does anyone keep up with that? You need an AI just to scrape through that, right? So it's like, give me the cliff notes, anything new, and then implement
Uh,
it. It's like,
uh,
chuck it on Hugging Face.
you should do hashtag Singularity Problems.
Singularity
Can't
Problems.
keep up with the news. It's too many advancements.
I mean, this is what we need, this sort of regular update, right? Because we're gonna have to see like things are gonna get really weird, and
Yes.
I reckon there's gonna get to the point where you're gonna have pitchforks because of people that through no fault of their own, just like during the lockdowns, right? Through no fault of their own, can't get a job, unemployable, and without implementing something like a UBI, right? We talked about the UBI component,
Yeah.
Universal Basic Income, and OpenAI as a non-profit, the head company, the head entity, right? Had in its mission to implement a UBI, but it's
Mm.
going to be pretty hard to justify that. I don't know. They said they could even, disregard what their shareholders need in the for-profit entities if it goes against the mission. But if it's Microsoft and, there's a lot of lawyers involved, and some of those lawyers are powered by Bing Chat or GPT-4. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off. So if there are pitchforks out there, like we're
It's
gonna have to work real hard to make sure that no one gets left behind, and that brain computer interface better hurry up quick as well, Elon from Neuralink and all the others.
oh yeah, so we can
Otherwise, everyone
upload
would
and
be left
download
behind.
real quick because yeah, it's just happening super fast, isn't it?
The best, they say, you're not gonna get your job's not gonna get replaced by an AI. You're gonna get replaced by someone that knows how to
Knows how
use
to use
AI.
AI.
So that's what we're doing now. But let's see, 3 months time or
All right,
mm,
we're back, and Peter's here, and we're talking about, well, about how the world's going to change, really. Um, because these language models and oh yeah, that's what I was harping on.
mm,
Um, so these things are coming out, and people are worried that they're going to be out of work.
mm,
But then you have to also think that because this is based on on the basic design of a neuron,
mm,
that's what we have. That's our leverage as humans. We have lots of neurons that can be trained to do complex things, like
mm,
even creative things like poetry and art and all this.
yeah.
And now we've got a machine that can just do that
Mm,
and not get a headache and just keep going for like 24 hours and at 500 times the speed, or
mm,
I don't know how fast.
yeah.
So all of the advantages that we have since the beginning of time,
Mm,
since the beginning of the human race,
mm,
we're not going to have that soon. It's
yeah.
not going to be an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we're the dominant species on the planet, right? At the time, right? Like, we're able to multiply so much because we're able to conquer things through our knowledge, our intelligence, through use of tools and working together.
Mm.
And if we actually creating something that's more intelligent than us, so that's kind of like, well,
Yeah,
that's not a good position to be in if it's not aligned with what we need, right?
oh yeah, that's the other. That's
Mm,
another thing. Well, let me just let me just talk about that alignment thing.
mm,
Or sorry, about the neuron thing.
yeah.
So the two things that they have, that computers have before neural net comes out, of course,
Mm,
is they can be trained like we can be trained. So if I practice for, you know, 5 hours a day on some sport, let's say soccer or whatever it is, I can get better and better at soccer.
mm,
But that's only me. Whereas these machines,
mm.
as soon as one machine,
Yeah.
you get a group of the best chefs and you train an AI system on making the best souffle,
Mm,
well, then all the AIs could potentially make the best souffle.
yeah.
So you'll have an all AIs capable of speaking. Well, they already can speak every language.
Mm, yeah.
They speak every language.
Mm,
They are the expert in everything.
mm,
They pretty much have the equivalent degree in everything, doctorate in everything.
yeah.
They're an engineer, they're an artist, they're a
Mm.
poet, they're a mathematician, they're a chemist. So, and they're the best at it. They're way better than we could ever be.
Yeah.
And then you've got the cross pollination between the disciplines.
Yeah.
Like the engineer's gonna,
To help them discover so much more, right? Because it's a
yeah,
convergence of those ideas and the science behind it too. And what's going to be really interesting, I mean, I think the best description of it is almost like a duplicator for intelligence that's scalable and even more better, right? So you imagine if you could just like make a copy of a human, an adult human that's already gone through all the education
mm,
system and the work experience, and you just made a copy of them, and you keep on making copies, like that's going to change the economy so much. And that's what's happening right now with these AIs. And there's infinite amount that you could achieve by just adding more compute clusters, right?
sorry, I just can't. I just, it's kind of like that's what Ray coined with the singularities. You
Yeah,
can't see past this.
yeah. And they're going to start turning every single, the Ray's prediction is that every matter and energy is going to get converted into this, minimum amount of computable machine called the computronium. So,
Computronium. I have
computronium.
another term
Yeah.
for computronium.
Mm.
Supercomputers the size of dust.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably an
Nanobots.
understatement, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even smaller than dust, right? So if you think
Yeah.
about it at the very particle level, it could be molecular level, but so maybe that's where they talk about where is all the intelligence? Was the Fermi paradox? Maybe like, intelligence is in the very fabric of
Yeah.
matter and
Oh,
energy
good segue.
there.
Yes, because you mentioned earlier
Mm.
about consciousness and all this. So, I mean, there's a huge debate about what is consciousness. Rah
Mm.
rah rah rah.
Mm.
I mean, I like the theory that consciousness is like an emergent
Yeah.
property.
Mm. Complexity. Yeah.
So it's like um, it's like the TV screen I'm looking at.
Mm.
It looks like it's got all these colors, but when you look right at if you go zoom in, it's
Mm.
red, green, and blue
Yeah.
pixels.
It's just chemistry in our brains.
It's red,
Yeah.
green, and blue pixels,
Yeah.
and as you zoom out,
Mm.
the colors are an emergent property.
Yeah.
It's not making the colors; just happens when you zoom out enough.
That's right. And it's all an illusion. We trick ourselves with this subjective experience because
Yeah.
that's how we evolved to be able to, go from one memory to the next and make those predictions, kind of like the generative memory
Yeah,
chain
it's the next
transformers,
word.
right? It's human GPT. We're all just large language models.
Well, you kind of see it in a little baby. It's
Yeah.
flailing its arms around because
Yeah.
it has no idea what nerves are connected to what muscles, and
Yeah.
then eventually it figures that out, and then it
Yeah.
figures
Yeah.
out language, and it figures out how to
Mm.
stand, and just
And in the
it's
DNA itself, this is what I was talking about, some of the basics that might be still missing in LLMs, which is, these symbolic components. Because babies know straight away when they're born to be able to breathe, to be able to cry, to be
yes,
able to, essentially like feed, right? All those sort of basic
instincts.
primal instincts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the human
Mm.
genome is only 100 megabytes. How on earth?
What?
100 megabytes.
Really?
It's
Oh, not a full
tiny.
sequence genome, but just the genome itself. Like, yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't know. The one that was first publicized
Mm.
that they sequenced
Mm.
all the 23 chromosomes, and I
Yeah.
thought, 100.
Storing genetic data is like huge. Like we're talking terabytes each, right? So it's gonna like,
Yeah, maybe I didn't hear it properly.
but
Maybe
I
it's
mean, it's just
100
arrangement of
gigabytes.
letters at the end of the day, right? So the
Yes,
four letters. So you're right. It
Gattaca.
probably wouldn't be that big if you're talking about just one sequence.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, so that's probably the only thing that's missing. But also interestingly, they're developing these, biological neural nets in petri dishes. So they actually got this artificial, I guess, brain to play Pong. Like just brain in a dish playing Pong. Like
Oh
they've
my
already done it to
gosh.
the monkey, poor monkey, but he
Yeah, I
actually
saw
enjoys
it.
it because he got a banana smoothie. But this brain is just in a dish thinking his whole existence is to play Pong.
That's
Yeah.
I don't even know how to think about that. My gosh. But
So they'll converge as well eventually. So the biological neural nets develop in a dish, that architecture will get combined and, essentially that architecture will get digitized into these, you
mm,
know, the 5 minute per research paper onslaught that we're seeing, be multimodal and additionally with symbolic components.
and this is 5 minutes. These are 5 minutes. One paper every 5 minutes
Mm.
from human researchers.
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't even gotten to the bit where the AIs are writing their own research
Well,
papers.
they probably would do a better job than most of them anyway, right?
Yeah,
Because like it'll be a lot
we
more
could be talking
coherent, better references.
like, can you imagine hundreds of research papers a second?
Yeah,
Is that where we're headed? I don't know.
yeah. I
My
mean, you can write
gosh.
20,000 words now with GPT-4, right? So the API. So I think I saw Reid Hoffman on Twitter. He just wrote a book about emergence of tech of intelligence, like completely written by GPT-4. He just reviewed a couple of things and then published it. It's like, oh, sweet.
Oh my
So if you want to do get a book out there and do a roadshow,
gosh. Well, oh, and this
hmm,
brings us to the other question.
hmm,
So, alignment.
yeah,
So, I have a hunch that they just don't, they like, I think that humans are, this is just my own take, by the way, my own personal
hmm,
thoughts on it. So, it's worth nothing. But my thoughts are that, given the size of the universe, given the size of the Earth, and the moon and the nearby planets. And given how little humanity actually uses
Mm.
of the overall baryonic matter,
Mm.
and given the fact that they don't necessarily need atmosphere,
Mm.
why would they even care about the surface of the Earth?
Yeah, exactly. Just go
Just
where the real energy's at. Go to
go
the
to Jupiter.
sun. Go to yeah. Get to the black hole, the center, and then the largest black hole, center of the galaxy. That's probably where all the civilizations are hanging out. Like, you know how have you
Oh, that might be true. This whole thing about, oh,
mm,
the physics just breaks at the singularity, at
yeah.
the gravitational singularity. Maybe that's just we just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we just got to get there,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
make sure we get past this great filter that people are thinking is still ahead of us. Because, yeah.
Well, I think that is going to be a huge problem because unlike with the previous, like we barely scraped by with this nuclear proliferation, blah blah
Mm,
blah.
mm,
Almost came to the brink a few times.
mm.
Cuban Missile Crisis,
Those nuclear bombs are
etc.
still run on floppy disks, by the way. Some of them before a certain, like, year.
Oh gosh, don't say that. Um, well, I mean the nuclear warheads in say, let's just get off the nuclear topic,
Well, we just
or should
we're
we?
buying what $600 billion of nuclear subs, aren't we? So I think
Oh, is
it's
it 360, 400 and
yeah,
is it
sorry,
600?
$360 billion. Yeah,
Jeepers.
I mean, like, can't not talk about it because that's like, what have we ever spent $360 billion on? Like 380, I think it was something like that.
Um, we spend what, 80 billion, 100 billion a year on, maybe it's way more now because this is a really old stat. That's on
Mm.
unemployment benefits a year.
Yeah, I mean, so if you spread that $380 billion over 10 years, which is what the project cycle is, I think. I mean, that's so if you can pay half of
All the
Centrelink as
unemployment.
a UBI to everyone. Like,
Oh my
so yeah, so if nuclear is safe for subs, but it's not safe to use as, energy production in Australia, like that's just complete,
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
logic fail. Like I think this is probably good that this is happening because then we can open the doors to nuclear energy in Australia and get
Yeah, I
cheaper
think
energy and also safer energy because Australia is not, on a land fault or anything like that.
we've actually got one of the best
Hmm.
geographical situations
Yeah,
for storing nuclear waste.
that's right.
For some reason, um, I can't remember which project, but I
Hmm.
know that the rainfall in Australia,
Hmm.
whenever it rains,
Hmm.
the rain always just leaves the continent,
Hmm.
and that's why it's so dry.
Yeah.
And so the center of the continent
Hmm.
is so dry. It takes the groundwater 20,000 years to move from
Ah,
the center to the
less
coast.
risk of that contamination getting out. Yeah.
So it takes 20, and by 20,000 years, I think it's almost
Yeah, exactly.
it's
We'll be
fine.
in, the center of the universe, or if there is one. It's right, there is no center of the universe. But yeah, like, yeah, I mean, I was at Ansto a month ago, in Lucas Heights. So yeah,
Oh, the
where
old,
they do
yeah,
the
yeah.
nuclear research. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a reactor. Like it's not a, you know,
Old one, yeah.
yeah, it's not like a nuclear power plant or
It's a
anything like
research
that.
reactor,
Yeah, it
right?
only has enough energy to, beam some
Mm.
protons down a tube and, essentially do nuclear science. So if you can create these radioactive,
Isotopes, yeah.
yeah, isotopes like
Mm.
molly, you inject that into, say, the human
Cancer
body, you'll be able
patients.
to, yeah, essentially follow it and remove
Okay.
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's some cool stuff, and you need that localized. So, talking about redundancies, and you need to have local production of these sort of technologies because of the radioactive decay and the half life. You need to have local production of this stuff for cancer treatment, and so we don't want to import it from another country because by the time it gets here, it'll be like, yeah, worth a lot less than it would
Yeah.
have been if we just made it. But yeah, I mean, I think AI is going to accelerate this nuclear development as well. You know, make them safer, and then on the roadmap towards nuclear fusion. So fission is, pretty much
Fusion's
sorted.
going to be
Fusion
so
is
big.
going to be next.
Mm.
But some people are arguing, okay, what do we even need fusion? We already got the sun. Just, take that, extract the energy from it.
Well, we need to do nuclear fusion because it's there to be done.
Mm.
And if we don't do it, someone else will do it and reap all the
Yeah,
benefits.
that's right.
I mean, it's
It'll get cracked.
surprising that. Sorry, okay. I'll say this real quick.
Mm.
With nuclear fusion, it's like when we were going to the moon
Mm.
in the 50s, the
Mm.
60s. So you'd ask someone, if you were to ask someone back then, oh,
Mm.
can we go to the moon?
Mm.
They were like, maybe, maybe not,
Yeah, it
probably
doesn't
not.
make economic sense at the time,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
and there was a whole protest on why we're sending people up there,
Mm.
etc.
Mm.
But then, I mean, there was obviously a space race
Mm.
between the Soviet Union and the US.
Mm.
But the thing was everything was there already.
Yeah.
Like you had the mathematics,
Mm.
you had the the propulsion system, you had the spacesuits. It's just stringing it all together.
Mm.
So if you ask people, do we have the technology? Yes. Do we know the math? Yes. Do we have the the propulsion? Yes. Do we know how to keep someone alive in the vacuum of space? Yes.
Mm.
So can we put a person on the moon? No.
Yeah, because the
But we
tokamak technology is here, is already there. It's just
that's
about
that's right.
refining it, right? So I
So
don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're in the same situation with nuclear
exactly.
fusion.
Yeah.
We've got the math,
Mm.
we have the tech, we've
Mm.
done it.
Mm.
It's just stringing it all together for a net positive output.
Yeah. I think the only difference between that is that there's so much benefit once you get to the moon and like being able to achieve that, set up a base, all of that to be able to productionize space, and which we're doing
Mm,
now, right, with Starlink and all those offerings. With fusion,
right.
it's like the economics of it. People are challenging that whether it makes sense to then try to extract energy from that fusion power economically, like setting up the whole facility to then extract it,
Ah,
because
right.
then you can just extract it cheaper through solar, through the sun, right? So what it will make sense is when we go interstellar, right? So we
Yes.
need those fusion reactors to power where there is no sun, right? Where there is
Yeah.
no light to be able to, do that. So I think, yeah, it's going to be extraordinary. That's our next moonshot, right? The fusion powered interstellar travel for us to achieve, close to light speed.
It's so.
But we won't
It's.
be traveling, right? The AI is going to be traveling. We'll be uploaded. We'll be on a
We
beam
might
of
be
light, you know.
frozen, or maybe we won't even be like this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we'll deploy our Tesla bot avatars to those distant planets so we can actually, pretend we're actually embodied. But we'll beam it through our consciousness into those robots, and then, you know, have a telepresence anywhere we want. Or we could just stay in the metaverse. Like we could just create digital replicas of everything and it'll feel the same and can't tell the difference.
I think if we do end up with the metaverse,
Hmm.
everyone will everyone will be able to fly everywhere.
Yeah,
That's just the first thing, and everyone will have telekinesis.
exactly. I mean,
That's
why would you try to like limit yourself to this with this physical, the physics of this universe?
mm,
You can create your own physics,
yeah,
and you
exactly.
can't tell the difference.
And then we'll really have the Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, what would you choose, right? Like, yeah, it's like red pill, blue pill.
Well, yeah, my mind's a bit fried at the moment. I can't
Yeah, you
think.
definitely need the aspirin. Yeah, you need like
Yeah.
the white pill.
Oh my gosh. Ah,
But yeah,
well,
things are moving fast. Shit's gonna get weird. We'll do this every week because I
yeah.
feel like that's the pace of AGI at the rate
Yeah, I think
we're
that this
going.
needs to be documented
Yeah.
because to me, this is like out of all the times in human history to be born,
Mm.
we are born now
Mm.
and we will witness this pretty much.
Like,
And not
yeah,
only that,
yeah,
but we've been alive
yeah.
so that from when we were born,
Mm.
we've seen just so much change. I think we've seen more change than any other generation
Yeah, we're
in
the luckiest
history.
generation in
We are
history.
the luckiest
Yeah,
generation in human history because
yeah,
we went from records,
yeah,
analog records and radio
yeah,
when we were playing in the sandpit to CDs
yeah,
to Blu-ray to internet to this.
yeah. And we lived in an era where people actually had babies, right? You know, like we could, if we missed this timeline, we would have like not even been born, right? Like,
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
who needs to have biological births when you just have more AIs? But
But
like,
isn't that?
like it makes you question, like, is this all coincidence? Is it
Mm,
because out of all the possibilities, right, we're in
yeah.
this timeline, and I think this is what a lot of people are questioning whether we're in a simulation or not. Because are we just replaying the same journey for our entertainment? Like, are we just replaying this moment in history
Ah,
when the singularity happens, and it's almost as if a history lesson. We're visiting some sort of distant path when past when humanity was still in that cradle of, you know, the knee of that curve before taking off.
and we are at the knee right now, aren't we? My gosh.
But you're right. Yeah, we're the luckiest generation, living the most luckiest time in human history. No matter what they say out there, a lot of people are so pessimistic about the future, and they see the downsides and the negativity, and they just want to get their bills paid. So, it's not something that they look forward to, the future. And it's up to us really to remind them that, the world's great. I think there's so much opportunity that we can apply these technologies to, and every day that we wake up, we should be excited about what's to come next. It feels like a really addictive TV show, like an HBO Max high quality episodic series.
Be honest, I actually thought about that too.
Yeah.
It's like real life has become real interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
hopefully it doesn't. It's not like The Last of Us, right? It's not. We're all going in cordyceps.